Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm actually not too sure if we've made a video like this before. We've made videos talking about Vancouver Canucks forward Elias Pettersson and the comparisons to Casey Mittelstadt and that entire debate that was raging on for the entirety of the summer of 2018. We had talked about that one quite a few times, actually, but when it comes to this specific comparison, I don't really know if there's too much of a conversation that we have had about it, so let's take our sights back over to 2017 and go over the stories of that year's NHL Entry Draft. The Vancouver Canucks at the time were a very bad team. I believe they were second last in the entire NHL, something crazy bad like that. However, even though that might have been the case, the Colorado Avalanche, who were the worst NHL team, and Vancouver, who I believe were the second worst, were given the 4th and 5th overall picks in the draft because you had New Jersey, Philadelphia, and Dallas, who won 1, 2, and 3 in the draft lottery that year. Whatever, it was seen as kind of a dud, but at the end of the day, the Vancouver Canucks were going to get themselves an elite prospect in the top 5 of this NHL draft. Now, when you go over to what happened, I think the Vancouver Canucks went out there and pretty much made the best pick they could have made. Elias Pettersson was the guy they ended up taking. We all kind of know the story of Petey. He was a guy that was kind of a reach at 5th overall, but he eventually became a superstar in Sweden as soon as the next season. He had set all the rookie records for points per game and everything as a junior player in the SHL, and he was the best hockey prospect in the world in some people's eyes during certain parts of the 2018 summer. He eventually made the Vancouver Canucks, posted up multiple 66-point campaigns, followed that up with a near point-per-game shortened season in 2020-2021 where he was injured, and then came back to score 30 goals in 80 games played for the Canucks in 21-22. He had 68 points in this previous season as well. Elias Pettersson is nothing short of a superstar. However, if you go back over to the NHL Draft, you will find a lot of people who were kind of questioning the Pettersson pick and debating whether or not it would have been the best decision to make. This is because back in 2016-17, Elias Pettersson was ranked to go 20th by ISS Hockey, 8th by Future Considerations, 11th by McKeen's, and 7th by TSN and Bob McKenzie, meaning that he was all over the place when it came to his draft projection. Now, honestly, just taking a look at the individual numbers, the guy was a near point-per-game player in the Allsvenskan as a 17, 18-year-old, so honestly, that sort of production, I feel like it's warranting of a top 7 pick at the very least because, I mean, the guy just produced so many points as a teenager in a pro men's league already. I get it, though. There were some concerns talking about size, talking about how he could translate, because sure, Elias Pettersson is 6'2", but he is only 170 pounds. He does look like a twig out there in some certain parts of the game. Here's a scouting report on elite prospects from 2017 on EP40. A crafty and agile two-way forward, Pettersson is consistently productive in all 3 zones. As he gets stronger, he'll become even more physical and aggressive than he is now, and his creativity could definitely elevate his game to dominant levels. He can be described as a tenacious, jack-of-all-trades kind of player. He is well-versed in all the important aspects of his own game, his speed and top-end acceleration continue to improve game by game, and his hard-nosedness shows through in his dogged pursuit of puck control. Elias Pettersson is a complete hockey player with exceptional hockey sense who brings intellect and youthful exuberance to a game that feeds on his kind of exciting athleticism. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but you do have to remember that back in this time frame, the Swedish second-tier league wasn't really given all too much of a prominent spot in terms of the public eye and how people would go out there and consume these draft rankings. As we said, there were some lists that had Pettersson as low as a 20th overall selection. Meanwhile, if you go over to who was actually scouted quite a lot, and who was given a lot of media attention, specifically here in Vancouver, I wanted to talk about the guy that went right after Pettersson's 6th overall to the Vegas Golden Knights, their very first pick in NHL draft history, Cody Glass. Now, Cody Glass was seen as a completely different type of center than Pettersson. He was a little bit bigger, he was a little bit heavier, he's also right-handed, whereas Pettersson was left, and Cody Glass was playing in the Portland Winterhawks of the WHL in this time frame. He was an absolute monster for the Winterhawks, getting 94 points in 69 games played, 32 goals, 62 assists. When it comes to the way that Pettersson was described as being a flashy, all-situations, two-way guy with some high hockey intellect, this is what Cody Glass's scouting report said back in that 2017 timeframe: a dangerous two-way center that thinks the game at a high level, never making the same mistake twice. He's analytical and patient in the development of his strengths, he transitions up the ice quickly quickly and is able to create and dictate offensive chances on the rush. He attacks hard and fast and consistently displays excellent puck control. His decision-making is very good, indicative of his high skill and hockey sense. He plays a complete game and elevates his play as energy levels rise. At the next level, he will need to be even faster and even more physically assertive to make his presence felt. All in all, he is an intense, quick-thinking competitor who could elicit crowd excitement when he's on the ice. Cody Glass in this time frame was seen as a very capable, all-situations kind of guy who also had high hockey intellect and good processing ability of the game. While some touted his offensive IQ, others touted his all-around IQ, saying that this guy could be a very legit, solid two-way center at the NHL level. Maybe a guy with elite potential, who really knows? He could go as high as 6th overall in the draft for crying out loud, with other scouting outlets ranking him in the 10th to 8th position. This was a guy that many people thought should have been the Vancouver Canucks pick at 5th, especially here in Vancouver where, WHL games are broadcasted here throughout the province, so it's easy to see why a guy like Cody Glass would be given all the recognition in the world, comparative to a guy in Elias Pettersson who was playing in the second-tier Swedish league. Now, as time has gone on, Cody Glass has not been nearly the same type of player that Elias Pettersson has been at the NHL level. He's made the NHL a few times, bouncing up and down between the NHL and the AHL, but he never was really able to find a fit with the Nashville Predators this season. He instead played with their AHL team in Milwaukee, getting 62 points in 66 games played. Now that's really good, especially for a guy who's 23 years old, but when it comes to the timing and when this guy should be making the league, etc., I feel like the clock is starting to tick down a little bit as to the window of opportunity that Cody Glass has to break into the NHL, force himself into a middle six role, and eventually become a star. If he could do that next season, then great, but his track record still shows him getting 1 point in 8 NHL games the prior year, and 10 points in 27 Vegas Golden Knights games the year before that. It's going to take a little bit more time, I feel, for Cody Glass to really become what he could be at the NHL level, but, for what it is right now, he is a pretty good AHL player. The reason we're making this video, though, is because I wanted to go over a tweet made by Chris Gear. Now, if you don't know Chris Gear, he formerly was a member of the Vancouver Canucks staff. He was the vice president of their general counsel from 2010-2011 to 2019-20. He then was promoted to assistant general manager, wherein he held that role until 2021-2022. This is a tweet that he made earlier in the summer. All I did, and I assume he's talking about a radio show, if not the Daily Face-Off pod. I'm not really too sure what he's referring to, but he is saying here that he has suggested in the past that there were scouts in the Glass camp and scouts for the Vancouver Canucks in the Pettersson camp. The Pettersson camp won. That's good process, led by management. Those who are trying to put Jim Benning in one camp or the other are misreading or seeing what they want to see. Get over it. And so, when it comes to the fan debate as to who the Vancouver Canucks should take at the 5th overall spot, between us fans, there are many guys going out there saying, hey, they need a center, they need a two-way caliber guy, let's go out there and take Gabe Vilardi. Let's go out there and take Casey Mittelstadt because he's small, he's shifty, he can play center, he can be like Patrick Kane, etc. Or we could take Cody Glass too, a guy that many of us in BC are exposed to all the time because the Portland Winterhawks are a WHL team, and a guy who was so gosh darn good at being an all-round, all-situations, two-way capable, offensively potent center. Instead, the team went with Pettersson, and a lot of people went out there and said, wait, why him? He's like a twig out there, he's small, and that's kind of the rhetoric that was being tossed around there. He's small, quote-unquote, even though he was over 6 feet, he was just pretty light for being a 6 feet guy. Which I guess makes sense. Even in the NHL, you could see Pettersson getting shoved around a little bit. He's been working on that as the years have gone on, don't get me wrong, but he definitely is not the 6'3", 200-plus pound center like Cody Glass is. To be honest, so many people were surprised to see Elias Pettersson explode in the SHL the year after he had gotten drafted, and how quickly he shot up the ranks to becoming one of the best, if not the best, NHL prospect in the world at some point. There were Hockey News magazines putting him and Mittelstadt as 1 and 2, or 2 and 1, whichever one you want to go out there and choose. We had acknowledged the Mittelstadt versus Pettersson rhetoric as well, making several videos about that topic during the time it was going on. But now, I wanted to talk about the guy that went right after Pettersson, as Cody Glass went 6th overall, and unfortunately for the Vegas Golden Knights, they traded Glass away in that Nolan Patrick three-way swap with the Flyers and the Predators, so I guess now all we can do is wait and see what happens with Glass in his career. But either way, talk in the comments your thoughts about your memories of Pettersson versus Glass. Do you remember this being a conversation back in 2017? I kind of do, and it's why I'm making this video, but let me know your thoughts and memories about that entire discourse here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.